There's one politician who's been in the news a lot lately.
George Santos.
George Santos.
George Santos.
George Santos, the U.S. House Representative for New York's 3rd District, the wealthiest district in the entire city. Now, one would think that all of the attention would maybe be around George being the first openly gay Republican elected to the House, right? Or maybe even him being the only Brazilian immigrant in the House. While those facts are historic, the media heard about a few other pieces of information regarding George's past, over 20 of them that will be discussed in this show. Hi, I'm Tim Philippi. You may know me as the creator of America the Podcast or one of the hosts of America the Conversation. Like most of you listening, I have been closely following the political career of George Santos ever since he hit the public zeitgeist back in 2022. And, like most of you listening, I was baffled about the information coming out about our dear friend Anthony DeVolder. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, did he just call him Anthony DeVolder? I thought the guy's name was George Santos. Yes, I did call him Anthony DeVolder, and no, I did not misspeak. Let me explain for those of you still confused. George's full name is actually George Anthony DeVolder Santos. However, he's made it a habit of taking various combinations of those names and using them as aliases to mislead people again and again. Simply put, George has lied a lot, to the point where I don't really need to say allegedly anymore. He's lied so many times that Matt Steeb from the New York Magazine, sorry if I mispronounced your name by the way, wrote an article that is regularly updated with new lies and fabrications from our good friend George. That article, along with many others listed in the show notes, will serve as our source material for this podcast, which brings me to what you're listening to now. Welcome to I Do Not Trust This Person, the many lies of New York Representative George Santos. In this podcast, I'm joined by my producer and co-host Alanah, who herself remained ignorant to all of these stories. Together, we sit down at our kitchen table as I regale her of the Ballad of George Santos. Join us on this journey as we discuss everything from Georgie Boy being an alleged Broadway producer to being a volleyball star to running scams on unhoused veterans. But first on, let's call it episode 0, we have to start at what may be the end for George Santos. So, due to my own pessimism around politics, I never thought George's lies would actually catch up to him, at least not anytime soon. You see, Alanah and I had already recorded several episodes of this podcast and were set to premiere in June 2023 when this happened on May 10th, 2023.
This is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself. We have an indictment. Now I'm going to have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is, it's a witch hunt.
I could not believe it. Not only did George get arrested and charged, I was able to add 3 more lies to my list and have one of the quote-unquote alleged ones confirmed. You'll find out what that one is later on. Big hint, always follow the money. So, join us now at what might be the end of George's story before we jump back to the beginning to make sense of one of the most fascinating politicians in American history. This is I Do Not Trust This Person, the many lies of New York Representative George Santos. We'll be right back. Hi everyone, I'm Tim Philippi, founder of Shway Media and the producer of the show you're enjoying right now. At Shway Media, we produce a lot of content, and due to, capitalism, we need money to keep making that content, and that's where you, the fan, can help out. In the description of this episode, you'll find multiple affiliate links that help out Shway Media and help out you as well. You can also head over to shwaymedia.com/affiliates for a full list of the affiliate links that help out Shway, help out you, or maybe even help out one of your friends or family members. And that's it. That's the commercial. Thanks for listening. And now, back to the show. So we're both pretty big political nerds, I would say.
Yes.
Why did you get into politics? What interests you? You're not involved in politics directly, but what has made you interested in it?
Well, I mean, I majored in politics in college. Like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I went into that because I was so impacted, I think, by it was really the war in Iraq that kind of stood out to me. I remember very vividly, that was 2003, right? So I was 15.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly being in Mexico on spring break with my parents, and we were in, it was a super rainy day, and we were stuck in the hotel room. So we were watching the news for some reason. We had CNN on, and they were announcing the war, like the invasion of Iraq. And it just felt so, and probably my parents, also had a little bit of an impact on that position. Cause I remember just thinking, this doesn't feel right. And everybody in the room, like my parents, my sister, we were all like, this isn't right. This is wrong. This is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And so that really, I had always been interested in history and politics, and but that kind of turned it up a notch where I started following. I was so obsessed with the news during that period of my life, following George Bush obsessively about what he was doing and all of the things he was saying and that whole period, and it just became a big part of my life. And then I remember the other thing that kind of put me into it was there was like a huge tsunami that hit India, Southeast Asia.
Well, Haiti happened in 2008.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't in our. It wasn't in this on this side of the world. It was over in Southeast Asia. There was a huge tsunami that hit a monsoon. I don't know, maybe 2006. I think.
Oh wait, I think you're talking about. Yeah, they made that movie with Gwyneth Paltrow or something about
Naomi
it.
Watts.
It's Naomi Watts. My bad.
And I remember being really impacted by that too, like the loss of life and the sadness, and watching that on the news, and that those things kind of pushed me into wanting, in a as an 18-year-old, you kind of think you still
save the world.
You still think you have the ability to save the world and have an impact on the world. And so I was like, I'm going to go into government and, work for the United Nations and make the world a better place. Of course, none of that happened because the world
didn't become a better place. It's your fault, really. If we're
you very
blaming
quickly
anybody.
learn, like, oh wait, this is a lot harder than I thought, and systems are much more fucked up than I thought. Can I cuss? Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
So that all happened, and now I'm just kind of an
Watching it all from the sidelines.
observer from the sidelines. Yeah, exactly.
For me, it was, I had a pastor that, who was one of George Bush's religious advisors, who gave a sermon on why you have to, as a Christian, vote for Republicans, which I feel is illegal. But
technically,
these days, who knows? But
is separation of church and state, isn't that written in the Constitution?
Yes, it is. But they keep trying to pull some dumbness of saying, well, that was actually just a letter written by Ben Franklin or something. I'm like, well,
they keep trying to do that, where they try to like explain the founding fathers' words as it is convenient to them today.
Exactly. And not to mention that every single one of the founding fathers were like Unitarians, atheists, agnostics, or otherwise. But so within that, and then just all of my church that I grew up in had a nickname as like the Marine training camp, not training camp, but recruitment center, because like every one of my friends went into the Marines, at which, more power to them. They did what they thought that was right, but they also regret, I think the majority of them, especially the ones that didn't make it out of the war, regret that the war, and said that it was unnecessary. And, so seeing them go through all of that, and then, when Obama got elected, that was like a big thing for me, because I had been told to be a Republican my whole life, and I had been told
that, you're not a Christian if you're a Democrat or something like that. And then I heard Obama talk and I heard McCain talk, and McCain was talking about wanting to stay in Iraq for 100 years and to outsource jobs. And my, family was affected by all the mass layoffs in 2008. So I'm like, well, I don't want my dad's new job or my mom's job to be outsourced so screw you for that, even though both sides do it. I'm not saying that the Dems or the GOP are any different. They are not specifically. But
at that age, like that had an impression on you.
Exactly. It had a major impression on me, especially when I heard Obama talk and I heard him talking about free healthcare. And I remember how healthcare was such a huge issue for my family, and how, learning about, hey, yeah, you have to pay this assload of money for healthcare when it really should just be free. And all these other things that Obama had been talking about, I'm like, oh, wait, these are more Christian ideals than the GOP and their Democratic ideal. Like, and then I started having a lot of conversations with friends, and I tried to ask my youth pastor one day about a gay friend I had that was also a Christian, and he couldn't give me a straight answer on whether or not they're going to hell. So I'm like, well, I don't think my friend's going to hell. I think you're wrong. And that was pretty much it. Like between the sermon, that Obama, it was more of me leaving the church, but also at the same time, it wove me into becoming interested in how things are run, because I was ignorant to a lot of it. I was brainwashed for a very long time and ignorant to how the government is run. Like my civics class in high school was an open book class. So, but I did absorb all of it. Thank God. I understood, what all of the different forms of government were, and all the different branches, things like that, the Senate, the House, yada, yada, yada. And I just became more of a nerd about it over time. And then Occupy Wall Street happened. That failed thing that, oh my God, God bless him. I was there. It was fine. But that was, gosh, the hand signals really got to me. But yeah, so after that, and then, from then on, I just was active in protests with you once I met you, and, then just kind of watching from the sidelines. And then I started, America the podcast, which anybody listening to this probably found this show through that. And you've also probably heard me say the same shit on America the Conversation. But now here we are, and talking about the most interesting congressman I've ever encountered in all, once I got into politics myself, I got into it and I learned everybody. And this
guy is just a barrel of fun.
Barrel of fun and a can of worms and monkeys all being released and wreaking havoc on what we thought it was the norms. His name's George Santos, and you know that name because you found the show because you are interested in George Santos, or you don't and you're like, who the hell is this guy? Well, he's on the surface, the representative from New York's 3rd. He is the first openly gay Republican, first Brazilian member of Congress. Not boo to Brazil. Alanah herself is Brazilian, just mad that this is all we got.
To him representing
being the only Brazilian representative.
He's Long Island, right?
Long Island is the
area.
New York's 3rd. Yeah, okay. I don't know if it's the whole island is their 3rd district, but yeah, he beat.
An incumbent.
I think he beat an incumbent, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
But he immediately we got into some crazy stuff because it turned out that nobody at the DNC did their due diligence in researching him.
Someone really dropped the ball.
The entire Democratic National Committee did, I would say, because he lied about what we have planned for this show. You're listening to episode 0 because of what we're about to talk about right after I say these words. He has lied about 20, I think we have 22, 23 episodes based on the lies that he's told.
So many
lies. And the thing is,
just you wait.
Like you heard at the beginning, well, they caught up to him faster than we could get the show done, and he has been arrested.
Really, the
indicted,
timeline of this is insane. The speed at which, nobody knew about him, nobody paid attention. He got elected. Then, very shortly after he was elected, the New York Times released an investigative article about, the lies and things that did not add up.
The one we're referencing for this is from New York Magazine. It's called "Every Lie Told by George Santos." It's in the description. You can read through them all ahead of time if you want.
That's what we're using for the show.
But the New York Times is the one that
to break
broke
this
the story.
first.
Yeah.
So the New York Times did an investigative piece on him, and that just opened the floodgates. Everyone started to look into him and his, all the things that he claimed. And it very quickly, in less than 6 months, just completely fell apart.
Even less, yeah. We started hearing a few of them by January. Once he took office, we were like, whoa, wait. Oh, no, it was within December after he got elected. Yeah. That's when everything started coming up. They were like, oh, is he going to actually serve? Yeah. Because the GOP in New York, the local GOP for the 3rd district were like, you need to resign. You lied to all of us. Because he lied to them too. They didn't, I guess, do their due diligence, or they did and just didn't care. But
yeah, it was December 19th of last year, 2022, when the New York Times released their initial article with questions about his resume. So really almost exactly 6 months to the day, because he was indicted on May 10th.
Yeah, he was indicted on May 10th.
That was a really quick
He was indicted on 13 counts of just everything. One of them, though, that he is he's getting off on. He's making a deal right now. He's not getting off because they're still going to be investigating him, but was check fraud in Brazil, which we'll be talking about later in the season. But it was all for like $700, and he, it was wanted for that in Brazil. And so he admitted to that, and they're working with him to have a little less of a sentence, and maybe even not have to serve any time. But as it stands, he could serve at least about, I think it was 2 years in prison for all of the stuff that he did. One of them specifically, which was really dumb, and we're going to get to it later, is he lied to Congress, which is something you obviously don't do, but he lied for the dumbest reason, was to inflate his own financial worth when he reported his financial disclosures to Congress, which you were supposed to do before you take your seat, and inflated it all, which is just a lie, an easy lie to not have to do. But because of what I'm going to say, vanity,
who knows?
Who knows? Because this guy, you can't get into his brain.
But the craziest part to me with all of this, he was indicted on the 10th. He pled not guilty to all of the charges, and he says that he won't resign, and no one's asking him to resign. There are
the New York's third is.
Yes, New York's third is calling on him to resign.
The GOP, House GOP is not.
Isn't, and it's and I get it. They don't want to have
Mitt Romney is. Mitt Romney freaking hates this
finally,
guy.
Yeah.
Oh no, he from the beginning said he was.
Everybody else is like, well, I don't know. I'll have to see and wait and see. And it's like, dude, what the actual F?
Dude.
So, wait. I want to talk about my
theory.
But
so he has been released on bond. $500,000. But Alanah has a theory that, I used to be a conspiracy theorist a little bit, and some of the things, they still hold water, Kennedy's assassination, what have you. But I'm very skeptical these days. But this one,
I have a fun one.
This is fun, and it got me.
Just to be clear, I am not a conspiracy theorist.
Alanah is the polar opposite. She is what brought me down to earth.
The fact that this even came into my mind is a little surprising, and probably is not true. But how fun would it be if it is? Oh so just to recap, the 13 counts that he was accused of, right? 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 2 counts of making false statements to the House of Representatives, and 1 count of theft of public funds. Yeah. So a lot there.
All we're getting to later.
We will get to it, and we will break it all down, and we'll see what happens.
Who could have paid this bail? That we don't know. It's under lock and key or whatever.
Well, so here's the fun part. Okay, here's my theory. So I think about a week ago, as
far as where we're recording, it's June 17th when this happened, I think.
It's June 17th today. So about a week ago. So as you said, he was released on bail, bond for $500,000. And he had someone, and I don't know how long this crap works, but basically he had someone
Pay his bill.
Will guarantee his bill.
Yeah.
He had somebody guarantee that if he flees the country or something happens, someone else signed to take responsibility to pay that amount of money. And
the fact that they were worried he would flee is already.
I think I would assume it's standard.
I'm sure it is.
I would assume that's pretty standard. So what happened is the court wants to release the names of the people who guaranteed his bail, bond, whatever. And he filed an injunction, a motion,
whatever, an injunction.
We aren't lawyers. I don't know the terminology. Something to make that not happen because they say that it was family members who signed this bond for him, and he doesn't want the names of his family members revealed, which is so interesting. So then I started to think, okay, based on George Santos's age, he's 34 years old right now. His mother was a Brazilian model.
Which seems like it would be one of his lies. I'm just saying. But it's not.
True.
It's an actual true part of his life.
I'm just going off of this, okay? My theory is George Santos is the son of Donald Trump.
Yeah. Because Don has been, he's been said to maybe have some, like, I don't know if the term illegitimate child is okay to say, but
it sounds like
it sounds wrong.
It's like a legal alien. It's like that's not right.
It's really bad.
It's not right.
So just child outside of his marriage.
Yes,
a long way to say it.
Which would be so exciting if it's true. Okay.
I mean,
the age works.
They look similar.
The mother is a model.
Yeah.
Donald Trump loves models, right?
Yeah.
So you've got all the pieces falling into place, and also you've got the lies, which in my mind, I'm like, George Santos is just trying to be like his daddy, lying left and right, except for he's really bad at it. Yeah. Yeah. And he tried to do too much too soon and go too far with it, and it's come back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah. I mean, I've opted I always have a vision of him like getting into a limo after he's told some lie and having just a panic attack of like, oh my God, how many lies have I told today and how do I keep up with them? Like
maybe, but I don't know. So I just read
he could just be straight up a regular old liar con man guy.
So that's the thing. I just read that according to like the definition of a pathological liar, right? Because we throw these terms around because we don't really. Yeah. So a pathological liar is somebody who actually feels guilt. They feel bad about the lies they've told, and they feel anxiety. To your point, what you just said, that they're like, oh my God, what have I said? Keeping up with the lies. And they feel bad about it. I don't know that George Santos does. I mean, he's been pretty...
Some of the things he's done, there's no way he feels bad. One of them involves dogs, I'll say that.
He's doubled down on the stuff he has said.
Exactly,
like when asked for clarification, when asked for justification, he just doubles down and he
Which is what his potential dad does.
Right. So like, to me, he's just a con man.
Yeah, I mean, and
a bunco.
A bunco. For any Riff Tracks fans out there, it's not to mention what realistically, my general theory is that he saw him and said, "Oh, Don works. I'm young. I've got the same kind of." I wouldn't say the same charisma as Donald Trump. Donald Trump's really got the riz, but he. George definitely saw that and said, I can emulate that. And I've got my whole life ahead of me to do it. And not to mention, like, I mean, he's a polarizing figure on both sides. I mean, he's the first openly gay Republican who, you know, you're going to find out this season that he was a wannabe drag queen at one point. And
stop giving the secrets away.
They know this one. And that's why they're the first few episodes. Like the other stuff, you don't know. But... You know, he's part of the party that is wanting to get rid of drag shows and wanting to basically make him not have any rights. It baffles the mind.
I don't think he was able to. I think he's been taken off of
committees. He no longer serves any committee. They're not. Oh, so that's the other thing. So much like what's happening with Don and his indictments, the GOP they're not helping George. They've said like he's got like I believe Kevin McCarthy said something along the lines of he's got a lot going on. And we're not basically not saying they're not going to help him. They're just the general, like, they've eased off of
No, they're
pushing him
doing
in
the
any sort
thing
of power.
where they're doing the thing which they're doing with Donald Trump too, which is like, well, let's just see what happens with the courts.
Let's just see what happens with the court. Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like he's obviously done a bunch of bad stuff, but we're not going to have an opinion on it.
Which is funny, and they say, oh, let's just leave it to the courts. What they're not doing, what they usually do with these things, is try and make up excuses. Like, for instance, with Don's indictment recently, with all the documents that you all have for sure heard about this point, and the same with George, that they're not saying, well, he didn't do this, that this is a lie, this is a witch hunt. Like, they've kind of used the witch hunt. George has definitely used the word witch hunt several times, especially with this. But they're not saying that they didn't do it. They're all trying to say, well, this person did this. Hillary did this.
Yeah, just pointing
Biden
fingers.
did this. They're all pointing fingers elsewhere, but they're not denying that George Santos is an absolute con man who did a lot of bad things. That Don did.
Sure, they're not denying it, but they're not taking any action. The thing that I think, like, George Santos for me is 100% insane, just a completely insane person.
Yeah.
And the reason why I feel that way is because of the stuff that he says. Like, just recently, as of this recording, he said that Adam Schiff should be censured to preserve integrity.
For what?
I don't know. It's something. But the fact that he is saying that
to just the
we
preserve
must
integrity
preserve
line, yeah.
the integrity of the U.S. House of Representatives.
No.
Oh,
Adam
for
Schiff, of all
investigating
people?
Trump.
Oh,
They-
right. Adam Schiff, who has been very open about investigating Trump,
Yes.
should now just be sent.
So like,
You're dumb, George.
it's that level of,
Anthony.
just what's the word that I'm trying to think of? Like,
Lack of self-awareness.
Lack of self-awareness,
and just in general
hypocrisy, hypocrisy,
hypocriticalness.
hypocrisy of him saying,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the GOP in a nutshell, and most politicians in a nutshell. Like, just being purely hypocritical.
Listen to this. To not carry out a censure would be a miscarriage of justice and a dereliction of our sworn duty as members of the House of Representatives. We must preserve the integrity of the U.S. House of Representatives and censure Adam Schiff today. Like, what are you talking about?
They love the word.
You are insane. Like, anyway, he has that is why he's not a pathological liar. He's
just a con man.
He's a con man.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
And he's like, one of the, I've said it in a America the Podcast video, but one of the purest, best politicians I've ever seen. Like, not in the sense of he's a good person, obviously. Just, he really, like, he lies without effort. He is still surviving all of it. Like, he's not a politician we should have. Oh no. Well, I don't know. Like, unless they really get him.
I think because, like,
he's a perfect. If I had to pick an American politician, that's him. Like,
right after his election, the New York Times revealed the majority of his lies.
Oh my God. I just don't understand why that took them that long.
Well, I don't know why they weren't looking into him when he was running, especially in a district
he's the first gay
was
Republican
Democrat.
in a Democratic district. Like, how are you not all focusing on the
I
first
do
gay
not know how that
Republican in
happened.
Congress? Like, openly gay Republican, I should say, because there's been a lot.
But they did catch on to him after he was elected pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for him to now be indicted less than 6 months after that,
Yeah.
I mean, fast.
It's pretty
They moved
fast. And,
pretty quickly.
America, aside from its presidents, isn't beneath, prosecuting the politicians. We've indicted and jailed judges, congresspeople,
I don't know that I trust
all governors
that
throughout the
he
past.
will
Judges.
be-
I said judges already.
I don't think he is a smart politician because
he's a smart con man. Yeah, okay. He's not a smart politician.
No, I don't think he's a smart con man. He's getting caught. All of his lies are revealed. That's the problem. That's why he's not as good as
not
Donald
Teflon
Trump
Don.
in the con man. Donald
Andrew said
Trump
once.
has been able to keep his hands clean up until now, obviously, that they're investigating all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's made it to what, 77? He just turned
78.
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Don. You
Donald.
turned 78.
78, 77?
No, wait. 17. Oh, no, 77.
He just turned 77.
God,
Only now
Trust
is
me,
all
I
of
know
this
that.
stuff catching up with him. But George Santos, it caught up with him less than 6 months after he got elected.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, and Don, well, and
he
that's,
went too far. He pushed too far with
and
his lies.
Don's a mobster. Like, right, like for lack of whether he is or not is, alleged. That's what it's called, indicted. The alleged crimes of Donald Trump. But he also has a lot of lawyers. George doesn't. George just tried to make a bunch of money off of whether it be, lying about X, Y, and Z, off of COVID funds, off of his own bullshit, conning people, like, conning veterans, all things that you're going to hear about this show this season. But he's not Teflon Don. Like, and even then, Don's Teflon, as all Teflon does, is wearing off.
Wearing off hard.
By the way, your Teflon pans, you got to replace them once in a while. The Teflon does wear off. But we've switched to solid steel, stainless steel, and it's not great. But so
It's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve,
figuring
and
it
I
out.
miss Teflon. Been on the space station. It was great. But George. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he is a good example of a politician, like a comically, like a Veep style politician where they're
Sure.
just, has finally gotten caught. He won't win again. That's the for sure thing. And it's, in a way, for me, I'd say a bit of a tragedy, because it's like, I don't know. It's not that I want him to win. I definitely don't want him or Donald Trump to ever win another seat again, but it's just for, I don't know, like a anthropological study of American politics in the United States. Like, he's so unique, and it's fascinating. I mean, again, first Brazilian to serve in Congress, first openly gay Republican. The fact that he lied so often and so much that no one caught him until later. That he's an international fugitive. Fugitive means you escape from jail, I think, but he's definitely wanted internationally for crimes, albeit that crime is small. Like,
can I just say, the world is such a funny place. There is I'm just like looking.
It is very funny
on my phone. There's like a Twitter account for George Santos. It says it's a campaign account. I don't know if it's official or
it
if
may
it's
not
just
be
some
these days.
BS. But the little like tagline that they have on Twitter for their account is "America First."
Yeah.
The CCP's worst nightmare. What's the CCP?
CCP.
Go look it up.
The Communist Party?
End the Ayatollah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I stand with Israel. Trump 24.
Every
Save our kids.
GOP buzzword.
And here's the best one. My pronouns are USA.
Oh my God! Wow, the CCP is Chinese Communist Party.
The Chinese
who are
Communist
not
Party's
communists,
worst.
they're
What?
whatever.
What?
just-
What? It's just.
Oh my God.
It's a real head scratcher.
like, I mean, with every one of those buzzwords, America First, obviously very racist, the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, good luck with that.
No, the Chinese Communist Party's worst nightmare.
and the
Why?
Ayatollah. Well, the Ayatollah, Iran's
why do
working
these
on it right
things-
now, but
What?
it's also very hard to
Guys,
do for
I
those
have
people.
so
Like,
many questions.
it's just. It's whatever you can get the middle America Trump supporters who are just need somebody to be mad about, a straw man, as it's called. Like, it is just an other to be scared about, another to be mad about, to keep, hey, stop looking at me, look at the Ayatollah, look at remember, I love Israel. Like, okay, good for you.
I think
like,
this is his
you are
official
every other
Instagram
politician.
account.
It might be.
This is the one where he randomly tweeted about, which is so.
Oh, all his videos on there are amazing. About the NASA uniforms, he gave a fashion.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, he rated them
Gave
fashion
feedback?
wise. And I mean, I actually agreed with him. The new astronaut suits are great, and they're much better than the bulky ones he used to have. But yeah, so why are we doing this show? At the end of the day, is to tell you about the most fascinating, up there with the most fascinating politicians to ever grace this current political stage, at least. I mean, Don is Don, obviously, but George is so. I mean, he's our age, isn't he? Like, he's like 34.
He's 34.
Yeah, he's 34. He's very young, has his whole life ahead of him, or maybe not anymore. Like, he may, if he gets fully convicted, he won't ever be able to run again. That's, I think, the law. But
sorry, I'm just like going down a rabbit hole. Can I say one more thing?
Sure,
Because this
yeah.
tweet I just remembered. This is the thing that we just saw. There was a protest in LA for the Dodgers game for the Pride
the people are
parade
protesting
because of the drag nuns. this whole
the
thing.
drag nuns, yeah.
And this is what he
my
tweeted
God,
on the 7th. He said, I don't usually swear, but the drag nuns can fuck all the way off. The mockery they cast on the Catholic faith is damn offensive and wrong.
You mean the mockery that all of the priests cast upon the Catholic faith for, what seems like centuries?
Ball of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's like you were a drag queen, but you don't like the drag nuns, but you are Catholic, but you're gay, and the Catholics don't really like gay people, by the way. Some do, and as they should. But I think the Pope's
but not
cool
if you're
going to
go down that traditional Catholic path of hating drag nuns, and then you're gay, and I don't know.
He's a box of contradiction.
I don't like him.
And that's I think
I am finding joy and pleasure in watching his demise.
Sure. And isn't that kind of like the spirit of America right now, which is sad, like to watch each side watches an enemy's demise with joy. I love watching Donald get his ass handed to him.
And maybe I am biased because of my views, but I think George Santos and Donald Trump deserve what's happening to them because they have lied and
they committed crimes.
Legitimate crimes.
Crimes, really bad ones.
You know what? They're a basket of deplorables.
They are a basket of deplorables, and that's, I guess, as good a place to end it as any, because probably the dumbest thing Hillary ever said fully does apply to a lot of Trump supporters and Trump himself, and of all people, George Santos
in that basket too.
Put him right at the top, right as the little bow on that basket, because again, he's the one who Trump opened the door for us to see all the really see all the hypocrisy in plain sight, and George has made it comical almost. And
because here's the thing, obviously everybody that is in Congress is a piece of shit, right? 99.9% of them. Yeah. And they're all doing questionable things. They're taking money from lobbyists. They're wanting to further their own interests. They're wanting to, add crap to bills so that their own districts benefit and blah, blah,
Democrats
blah, blah, blah.
do it too. Everybody does it.
Everybody does it. It's why the system is so freaking broken. But George Santos has done it on a whole nother level. And that's what you're going to hear about, because some of these lies, they don't even make sense.
Yeah. Some of them
what was the purpose of them?
Yeah. What was the purpose? And the first 3 episodes of this show that you'll hear after this were, what is the purpose of these lies?
And honestly, we don't answer that question because we don't know.
Yeah. No one knows.
No one knows.
And just as a disclaimer, we're not going to get into the mind of him. We're just going to discuss.
I try.
Not the beautiful mind, but the just decrepit mind of George Santos. And that's it. Thanks for listening. The other episodes are going to be out right after this one. The first 2 are, at least. Enjoy and keep asking questions. Vote in primaries. Make sure you know who your politicians are, and vote for progressive populist policies and the politicians that vote for or that are trying to push them, because George is not one of them. The DNC, the GOP, all of them, not trying to help you. Vote, 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 and get people like this out of here on both sides. There are bad people on both sides. Good night.
You've been listening to I Do Not Trust This Person, Season 1, The Many Lies of New York Representative George Santos. The show is hosted and produced by Alanah Matos and Tim Philippi. The show is mixed and edited at Shway Media Studios in Austin, Texas. For a full list of news sources and music used in this episode, please refer to the show notes. I Do Not Trust This Person was created by Tim Philippi and is a production of Shway Media and America the Podcast Presents. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
This has been a production of Shway Media, all rights reserved. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com.